What's up, SML? Hello, Paul. Present. Sorry, guys. It's gross to see people eat, but I am starving. Hunter Burke. What's up, Hunter Burke? How long, Grady? How long till the show starts? The show starts in exactly 13 minutes. 4:47 here on the West Coast. Where are you guys at? I'm here in Los Angeles, Universal Studios. I know SML, you're out in Florida, right? Elias, good to see ya. Let's see. What's up? Stale Mango. Caesar Paulino. Hello. Hello. 66 an hour minimum wage? That would be $66 an hour? That would be a lot of money. Phoenix, there we go. SMO. I'm eating a snack because I forgot to eat lunch today. And it's 5 o'clock. And I get a headache before our show because I had to do a lot of thinking and I'm depleted. So I'm trying to chew really quietly so the mic doesn't pick it up. New York City, DJ the Shadow 882, nice. 313 comment, I need a job. I'm sorry. It's a rough time out there. What kind of work do you do? John Doe, Cincinnati, Ohio in the house. John Doe, have we seen you in here before? Cincy, man. Represent. Kate, hello from Hollywood. Kate, you're our neighbor. So close. Elias, about a mile away from the Rocket and Space Center. Oh, in Huntsville, Alabama? No way. I went to space camp there, and it was so sick. I still have the space camp, full-on suit, the flight suit, and I can't wait until I can just wear it home, and my kids will think I'm cool. But yeah. Space camp, that's amazing. And you've got the Redstone Arsenal. Huntsville, that is a place to be right now when it comes to the future of so much of rocketry and next level engineering. So kudos to you. Actually, we saw this really cool school out there. I forget which school it was. I can't believe I can't remember it, but it was a high school. And man, gosh, what was it? The kids there were so impressive, and we were like, yeah, what are you guys' internships? And one of them, they were literally like, Raytheon, this. One of them was like, the CIA. So it was pretty wild. Let's see, 313 comment. What did I miss? Well, hold on, you guys are talking really fast. Thinking is hard, Denver, Detroit, what? Content creator, interesting. I live right next to it, really? Where are your glasses? They're right here. I can see close up. I can't see far away. Do you have my rocket tonight? Marie Jasmine, I have my rocket every single night. I just don't have it right here. It's in my office. I have 3 rockets, actually. You want to see them? We had 10 minutes, right? We don't have to shoot to open. Yeah. Come on, guys. Come on. We got time. Let's take a little field trip. You guys want to see the rockets? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So this is the studio, right? And if you're joining us and you're like, what the, is this news or not? This is news, I promise. There's a show coming in 10 minutes called Stay Tuned Now on NBC News Now. But for now, this is the behind the scenes. And behind the scenes is straight into the office. So let me just show you, turn on the lights here. Okay, look at this. This is my little rocket garden. We've got, look at this bad boy, Saturn V. What? Only the pinnacle of human ingenuity that helped put men on the moon. Incredible. Oh, Artemis, you ask? SLS rocket, huge amount of payload. It is, yes, not exactly reusable, kind of disposable. So then we've got, boom, this guy. It was 3D printed, so it might fall apart. But this is Starship. You can see Starship technically is bigger than SLS. It's even bigger than the Saturn V when you use a 1/200th model. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. All of this is the future of space, and if you watch the show, you know I'm obsessed. And oh, what's all this art? This is the Museum of Modern Kiki Art. That is my daughter going through all of her phases. We start with very little hair, but very big smiles, to now we've got all kinds of hair, curly hair. Then there's the eyelash era. Now we've got eyelashes. And then boom, 4 years old? What? Huh? Picasso? Are you kidding me? Look at that. Trees. You've got like a beautiful crown on top of the head. You've got multiple Your Majesties present. You've got even more of the royal family here. I mean, yeah, is Kira like the best artist in the planet? Yeah, obviously, but don't want to brag. Enough about Kira. Let's get back to the news. I've always wanted to be an astronaut too. 313 comment. Oh, hence the comment. I see. You need new Glenn. Anthony Robledo, I do need new Glenn. I really, really need new Glenn. And I've been looking up some of the 3D printing schematics. Guess what? Kevin, he might be in the chat. He is a 3D printing genius, but I already asked him to do a million things, including set up this entire stream. So I have to wait for like, maybe like another month before I could be like, hey, Kev, so you give a mouse a cookie, he's gonna want a new Glenn rocket printed on a 3D printer, right? Right. Anyway, shout out Kevin if he's in there. The people are asking for it. It's not me. Like I know you're busy. Hi from Burke. What's up, Josh? Burke, like Josh from Cibola by any chance? The West Side? Maybe, maybe not. Awesome. Okay. All right, what if the Iranian regime tries to dime on Russia to save themselves? It's a very interesting question. We are going to be diving into the latest in Iran. And in particular, if you're watching what's happening around the world, there is a battle group. There's actually a few different battle groups. There's a particular battle group with an aircraft carrier that seems to be moving position from the South China Sea. So are they headed towards the Middle East? Yes. Is that their final destination? We don't know. But we are going to talk to Courtney Kube, one of the best correspondents out there when it comes to national security and when it comes to defense. So it's crazy. Like this show, I know sometimes we seem a little informal, but this is NBC News. This is like the largest reach when it comes to news gathering across the world. Like we're partners with Sky. We have people in the Middle East. We have people all over the world. And Courtney Kube is like she's a Pentagon reporter. So we're going to be talking to Courtney. We're going to be checking in at the White House. Monica Alba talking to us tonight. Whatever's happening in Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities, you're going to have a report from the ground there. Shaq Brewster. I don't know if you saw the other night, but Shaq was in the middle of it. And once again, he is on the front line. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see, Northeast Heights. Ooh, you fancy, Josh. That's where my mom lives now. Let's see, but I grew up in Paradise Hills. 313 comment. Well, thanks for dreaming about the stars, like me. Elmi, Greenland. Another Ways military order coming up soon. We've been hitting Greenland pretty hard, oddly enough. And again, it's so crazy that we live in this timeline. It doesn't come up. Don't jinx me because breaking news happens all the time, but doesn't come up in our rundown for now. That always could change. But yeah, Greenland is something that we are definitely keeping an eye on. It is. We're going to be talking a lot about it tomorrow. Tomorrow? Perfect. Yo, is that the voice of, is that Lisa? Lisa Crivelli up there? Hello, Lisa.
It is. Hello, Gotti. We are watching you.
That's the brain of the operation.
No, I was going to say Ryan Nobles is traveling with the delegation of lawmakers who are going to be visiting Greenland, I believe, tomorrow. So we'll check in on that.
Amazing.
And then we have that.
He's going to Greenland?
I believe so. Or is it Denmark? Hang on.
Wow.
It is. No, sorry. They are traveling to Copenhagen to meet with Danish and Greenland officials.
Got it. Interesting. Man, yeah. So the reach of NBC, I'm telling you. Germany and EU members already have troops stationed on Greenland as do we, Anthony, which is weird. We already have a very robust military presence in Greenland. Like they're an ally. Yeah. Why are top Democrats not supporting defunding abortion? Kayla Joseph's 3. I think that's a question for top Democrats, but I can't answer that. What moment in your career made you realize journalism is exactly what you were meant to do? All of the moments? I mean, my brain does not work linearly. And if you're in journalism, you know what that means. And I don't know if I would be able to make it anywhere else, but journalism is... No, when I was a kid, I used to watch this show called The Pretender, and it was such a cool premise. It was this guy that was like a super genius, not me, but yeah, and remember he would just drop in and he would be something different every day. He would be like a race car driver, and then he could be, like a doctor or an ER doctor, and I think Quantum Leap also did that.
Quantum Leap?
But
yeah, no.
Wait, hold on. Let me see. Quantum Leap definitely did that, but The Pretender. Same, I think there's probably like the competition to Quantum Leap. Pretender. Am I not remembering this right? No, The Pretender, yeah. Yeah, oh wow. And then somebody on Reddit, just saw the worst show I've ever seen, The Pretender. Shh, don't, come on! No, Pretender was a great show. Anyway, at least for my impressionable mind. And I was like, what, there are jobs out there? Are there jobs out there that you could just, see what everybody does? Journalism. Journalism allows you to step into everybody's life just for a second and see the world through other people's eyes. And then boom, guess what? We got the chat that is supercharging that. So yeah, from your fingertips to my brain, we just cannot get more people's perspectives. At some point I will short circuit, but I really appreciate all of your guys' inputs. Let's see. What else? If we say we want to NATO, Sweden is Greenland too. Hi, Lisa. How are you? Hey, Lisa. How are you? Oh, she's gone in the darkness.
No, I'm here. I'm here. We're just talking about stuff for tomorrow. Yeah, Sean is in. Sean is back tonight.
Aw. Hi, Sean. Max Columbus. It's going great. Epstein. There was a lot going on last night. I don't think we're getting into it tonight, but don't worry. We cover like Epstein, I promise you, every week, several times a week, and we're going to continue to do so. We got to update what's going on there with Epstein, with files, and with the latest. The Clintons are the latest storyline. Some of the members of the House Oversight Committee are looking to hold former President Bill Clinton in contempt of Congress, and Hillary Clinton is also expected to testify in front of them, answer questions. We'll see what happens. Very weird stuff. 30 seconds till the show? Yikes! All right, guys, we got to get back into the the news here. So in 20 seconds, NBC News is going to put on Stay Tuned Now. That's this show out of Universal Studios. That lady up there, she's in 30 Rock. That's the control room. You're going to see the news all come together in 10 seconds. It's going to look a little bit different than this, but if this is your first time joining the stream, guess what? We get to chat like this during commercials. So stay tuned. Let's go. Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight, hours after federal officers shot another person in Minneapolis, tensions are rising even higher. The president now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act. We're on the ground with the very latest. Plus, American battle groups are on the move. What that could mean for the future of Iran. And Venezuela's opposition leader was in Washington today, where she presented Trump with her Nobel Peace Prize. So did he take it? And we are learning more about yet another basketball betting scandal rocking the sports world. This one accusing players of helping fix college games here in the United States and pro games out in China. And if you are a frequent flyer, is space debris going to start impacting your travel plans? That's coming up in tonight's Future of Everything. And tonight, tensions continue to build in Minnesota after another ICE shooting in Minneapolis. Protests erupting overnight, spilling into today, while the president is now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act, meaning he'll send federal troops into Minnesota without congressional approval. Now, last night, DHS says a federal officer shot this man, an immigrant from Venezuela, after he tried to escape an attempted traffic stop. And according to DHS, the officer was then attacked by two other people with a shovel and a broom handle before The officer opened fire. The immigrant is now in custody, and that incident has kicked off even more demonstrations. We're seeing videos in our feeds like this one, where crowds of people are standing close to law enforcement officers. Fireworks suddenly start popping off, and then there are other moments like this. Seems like that is becoming a regular occurrence, people running away from the flashbangs and smoke. We're also hearing about people not necessarily on the front lines, but getting caught in some of the crossfire, including little kids. Take a listen.
It was the officer that's sitting right here that threw it.
He threw the mace?
Yes, he threw the mace.
And
I don't know if it came from the bottom, came through the vest, but my car just filled up like it caught on fire.
And your kids?
My kids can't breathe. They're at the hospital. Innocent people, innocent kids. Like, it's to the point, it's like it's getting unsafe.
Will your kids be okay?
I don't know. My 7-month-old couldn't breathe. He got rushed to the hospital by the ambulance.
Tim Walz making a prime-time address, speaking directly to the president and the Secretary of Homeland Security.
This long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. Instead, it's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of Minnesota by our own federal government. So tonight, let me say once again to Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, end this occupation. You've done enough.
And in the backdrop of the governor's statements there are now roughly 3,000 federal agents on the ground in Minneapolis in that area, making immigration arrests, questioning people who live there. Here's what some of those conversations sound like.
You have some ID then, please?
I don't need it.
If not, we're going to put you in the vehicle and we're going to ID you.
I am U.S. citizen. And I don't think so you have a right to picture me while I am in my home and walking around in my home. This is not acceptable. You guys, you terrorizing people,
Ma'am,
and it's not
where
acceptable.
were you born?
It doesn't matter where I was born. I belong here. I am U.S. citizen.
The city has been reaching a boiling point since an ICE officer shot and killed Renee Good last week. But with another shooting now in the mix, protesters say they will continue to make their voices heard.
I can't tell you what the future looks like, but I can tell you that Minneapolis and Minnesota are standing up. As you'll see today, the crowds will continue to grow in solidarity, and people will feed each other and will take care of each other while they're getting shot at with pepper balls, while they're getting tear gas deployed at them. The community will stand strong.
And NBC's Shaquille Brewster is on the ground for us in St. Paul, Minnesota, once again tonight. Shaq, I know things have been very touch and go there. What have you been seeing throughout the day?
It seems like we have another situation. If we turn around, turn the camera, I'm telling you, we're not planning this, but these officers just ran out of the federal facility. They have someone that they have grabbed right now. Clearly, they were targeting someone in this instance. They are now telling the crowd to move back. And you see the crowd becoming very hostile. There was no warning for this. There was no police line that we even saw. It looks as if someone is being detained right there on the ground. Now, we're going to move back a little bit just to get out of the way here. But you see, it is a scene that has escalated very quickly. You know, one thing that we continue to see here, Gotti, is just how quickly this all changes. I was here, we got here about 10 minutes ago. It was calm. People in the crowd were talking about moving over to a different entrance in this, and now you come out, you have a police line at the entrance to this federal building. It is a very tense situation, people yelling at some of the officers here. We learned here today that there are more than 3,000 federal immigration officers in the Minneapolis area right now. That is a high number. For some context, that's 5 times more than the Minneapolis Police Department. So this is a very serious show of force that we're seeing. We're seeing these escalations happen much more quickly. If you can just show the line of officers and what they're telling us to pretty much stay where we are. There's nowhere we can even go at this point as they have that arrest, and as that arrest takes place a little bit further down. We're obviously keeping some distance, but Pete, if you could just circle around, just show how we're kind of, you see right there, and if you look at the entrance of the federal facility, you have officers just lined up, more officers than people here, it feels like right now. But we're just going to kind of stay here, stay in place as we watch what happens. And as I mentioned, an arrest or some sort of detention is happening back there, and it looks as if they're creating a space so that they can bring that person into the facility.
Well, Shaq, you know, it's funny. You say that you were there for about 10 minutes. It seems like every time we go to you out there, something's happening. That's what happened the other day.
Let's go this way.
Does it look like this is something that is happening throughout the night?
And look right here. I'll just kind of narrate what you're seeing. Again, that person who was pulled by security agents, they're now going. They're behind that police line that, again, really just came out of nowhere, seemingly. Clearly, this was something that was at least relatively planned, but there's at least one individual that is way in the back by the entrance of the facility that was taken back, and now you have protesters and law enforcement just in a direct clash. I don't know another word for it, but they're letting it be known that they don't like what they're seeing. We are getting our gas masks ready. Again, there's not anywhere we can go right now because of how the police came out, how quickly they came out, but it looks as if they're retreating right now. They're simply going back. They got the person it appears they were looking for, and now they're moving back to their position. It seems as if things are calming down a bit, but again, it happened in the blink of an eye. You saw, as we were waiting to be introduced, a quick escalation here on the ground.
I mean, tension's obviously so high out there. Shaq, it's so weird to ask this question while you have a gas mask in one hand, but the context behind all of this is so important. We've been seeing these viral videos that have been circulating.
Absolutely.
We've been hearing about other things that happened last night, including that police shooting, the ICE shooting, where one person was hit, and then we're hearing there were two other people that were involved during the chase. Can you break down what happened there? And again, if you have to stop and tell us what's happening behind us or behind you or get out of the way, feel free to do that. But yeah, what happened last night?
Absolutely. And we now see the police moving back now, so that's giving us some space. That's actually giving us some place we can go at this point. To answer your question, the situation, and according to DHS, they say that this is something that started as a targeted arrest. And actually, let's flip back this way so we can get a little bit distance. I think this is the best way out of all the action. I'm going to pardon my back as I answer this question, but DHS says this is something that started as an arrest. They were targeting an immigrant, someone who was here illegally from Venezuela. They say that after trying to have a traffic stop, essentially, they pulled the car over. The car ran off, crashed into a parked vehicle, and then they say there was a pursuit on foot. So the person that they were looking for began running. That's when one individual officer, apparently, again, according to the DHS account, one officer got into a scuffle with this immigrant. They say two people came out of a nearby home and started attacking and ambushing the officer with a broom and a shovel. That is what then led to the officer, again, according to DHS, to use that firearm, shooting this man in the leg. That is then what led to that response that we saw last night, where it was yet another residential neighborhood where you saw the streets completely full. Here, I'm gonna hand this off to you. Completely full with tear gas, those flashbangs, those direct clashes and interactions with protesters, where we saw in some instances protesters throwing ice at the federal agents, throwing rocks. Definitely an intense scene. That was something that was condemned by local leaders here, even as they said they believe it's the increase in the increased presence of the federal officials and law enforcement that's creating these constant clashes, these constant battles. Again, something that we just saw play out here once again as we're talking to you live on air.
Yeah. Shaq, you know, with those images, those stark images in mind, if you know that the president is floating the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act, what would that look like there?
Yeah. That is something that a lot of people are asking about, and that's because this one is not a law that is invoked very often. It's a 1800s law. It's something that hasn't been used since, I believe, it was 1992 or 93, around the Rodney King riots. So there are really very serious questions about what that would look like on the ground. For President Trump, if you look at his social media, he says that he will use this to send federal troops to cities like Minneapolis to, in his words, protect ICE and to stop the protests that you're seeing and stop the attacks on ICE. The legality of that is questionable. We do know it would likely lead into a court battle, but this is something that I've been putting to some of the people that I've been talking to here on the ground. I've been asking them, are those scenes that you've been seeing of the intense clashes, are scenes like the one that you just saw behind me, are those deterring you from coming out? I say, I know you're against the increased immigration enforcement that you're seeing, but is any of that stopping you or making you second guess about what's happening and second guess coming out? And they tell me one after another, no, it's not. It's not having an impact. One gentleman earlier today saying it was last night's shooting that reinforced his decision to come back to this facility, to make it known that he doesn't like what he's seeing in his community. He doesn't like the way he says ICE agents and the federal law enforcement are treating his neighbors. This is something that feels like it's only going to continue as we see night after night, clash after clash, protests between members of the community and federal law enforcement one day after the other.
Yeah, looks like no backing down, no matter how you look at it. Jacques Brewster, thank you so much for your incredible reporting out there. Stay safe, man. Let's bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst Jim Kavanaugh to talk a little bit more about what we're seeing happen in Minnesota. Jim, once again, DHS is saying that this ICE officer felt his life was in danger, so he fired his weapon in self-defense. Based on what we have heard, how do you see this?
Yeah, based on what we've heard from Department of Homeland Security, it sounds like a justified use of force. The ICE officer was trying to arrest a person, and he was resisting, apparently, and then two people come out of a different house with a shovel and a broom to attack the ICE officer. So, you know, you don't have to be hit with a shovel if you're a law enforcement officer, or a broomstick, and you have multiple people involved. We don't know how many ICE officers were there, but he used his duty weapon to fire a shot and hit the person he was trying to arrest in the leg, and the other two people were apprehended. So that's a legitimate use of force if the story, as was given to us by Homeland Security, holds true, Gotti. That would be a legitimate use of force.
And Jim, the tension between protesters and the federal officers, it does seem like we are somewhat in uncharted territory when it comes to de-escalation tactics that we've seen in the past. Maybe that's a change in tactic. But switching gears completely here, I do want to talk a little bit about this new reporting from our colleague Julia Ainsley. She was raising questions on whether ICE recruits are being sent into the field without proper training because of some sort of AI application glitch or an error. Given the tension that we are seeing here, big picture here, how important is training, and are we seeing training adapt to the situations that we see arise?
Well, Gotti, I saw Julia's report about that, and I've watched extensively. Yesterday I was watching hours and hours of feed from the streets of Minneapolis, and it just looked very disorganized on the part of law enforcement there, which was, at that time, ICE and Border Patrol officers. I mean, just milling around the streets, lots of citizens milling around. Didn't look like any kind of enforcement activity going on. Maybe there was some, but it wasn't large. And it just seemed like all this, you know, pushing people back, and certainly protesters trying to get in front of their vehicles and impeding them. And that is illegal, and they can arrest you for that. But I mean, it just seemed like too much. In other words, this is all, the tactics here are too much. And the tactics are driving the angst from the local population. And when you're in a democratic society, you know, you need the local population to be on your side, to be police and law enforcement officers. So this is really defeating your own purpose, where you have to send 50 agents to arrest one person. You know, that's not a good strategy. Mm-hmm. So you need to back off, wait. You can get them another day. You can have a surveillance. Really, I think the real leadership thing here is for people to stop this, slow this down. Doesn't mean every immigration agent has to leave Minneapolis, but certainly on this scale, it's not really needed. You're putting a lot of citizens in fear, and also on the side of citizens that are trying to block ICE vehicles or attacking officers with shovels. You know, they need to be arrested and they need to be charged with that. That's unlawful activity. As far
Jim,
as sending in the 82nd Airborne or something on the insurrection, I mean, you know, that's like saying the beatings will continue until morale improves. Mm-hmm. It's not going to help anything, because those troops are not going to be able to really do anything except stand around. They're not going to arrest people blowing whistles and beating drums. It's just a bad decision. And they shouldn't do that.
Jim, sorry to interrupt you. I do want to point out that the images that you're seeing right now, this is from Shaq's live shot. It's there in front of the federal facility in St. Paul. And, you know, there's this weird dynamic that's at play, right? You've got ICE going into communities. You've got people that are rushing in to confront ICE. And then you've got situations like what we're seeing here. And we do see federal agents and officers falling back, moving forward, falling back, moving forward, and then there is this standoff, and you see restraint from officers oftentimes, and you see the protesters screaming at them, and then sometimes you see flashbangs, and the protesters rush out. Again, you know, when it comes down to the training, and when it comes down to how this type of tension is something that we haven't really seen before, you heard that father earlier talk about how his kids were kind of caught in the crossfire, taken to the hospital because of concerns about their lungs and tear gas. At what point does any of this de-escalate? You've been doing this for a very long time. Do you see any de-escalation on either side in the future?
Well, you know, we're seeing some professional police activity right here this evening that Shaq showed us on scene. And let me point out a little bit of the differences. That police line that came out, all in navy blue, that's the Federal Protective Service. They wear a DHS, it says on their front of their blouse, Department of Homeland Security. It's the Federal Protective Service. Their job is to protect federal buildings. These guys are trained. This is a police action like they came out. You would get from the top city police forces in America. They come out in a line. They're going to make a pointed arrest. They probably identified someone who did something earlier in the crowd, maybe threw something in a vehicle or did something early in the day. They identified someone, and they went in and made that arrest, came back, had this, we call it a skirmish line, get behind the line and back up and retreat. It's not disorganized. They're not all around the place. They're not walking all in circles and shooting people with pepper balls. They're very disciplined. And those guys get a lot of training. In the Federal Protective Service, you know, they guard a lot of federal buildings and facilities, and they're a good force. But that, you could see that action, how organized it was, how professional it was. Now, people may not like it that someone was arrested, but, I mean, it was a textbook police movement operation and arrest. Very good police operation there, and then back into the federal building. So I think the issue here for the law enforcement officers is any vehicles that are coming to the facility, the federal facility, you know, could be attacked, things thrown at it, or windows broken or something, and they're trying to protect the ingress and egress at that building, and that's their mission there, because nobody's going through the fence or trying to climb over the fence, Gotti, and trying to get into the facility. So basically the interest there is just the free flow of people, agents, and officers who are enforcing the law. Well, you contrast that to some of the other scenes you've seen. It seems just very disorganized. And like you say, the training may be lacking on a lot of people. And Homeland Security's got to pull that back. You can't have somebody out there with a few weeks of training. You've got to be well trained. Federal agents normally are well trained. It takes a long time, a lot of months, even years, and then before you are allowed to do stuff and you're a journeyman agent. This stuff of a few weeks and throwing you out there, it's just going to be a bad result. Yeah. And I would just close with this, Gotti. The federal government, the state government, any police agency does not have to save face. There's no face to be saved. If you make a decision, a leadership decision, we're going to pull this back, we're going to let things cool down, we're going to reassess the situation, you're not losing any face. You're the police. Yeah. So you can do that, and you can come back with a different strategy, maybe more surgical, with a little less drama, and maybe not keep the city all tied up in knots.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Always appreciate your perspective. Jim Cavanaugh, thank you so much. Meanwhile, it was quite the split screen today as the Trump administration tries to figure out what to do about Venezuela. On one hand, you've got all smiles in Washington when Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, who is The political opposition against Maduro met with both the president and a bipartisan group of senators. This is her being greeted with cheers and smiles and hugs on Capitol Hill, where she said this.
I presented the President of the United States the medal of the Nobel Peace Prize. The people of Bolivar are giving back to the mayor of Washington a medal, in this case the medal of the Nobel Peace Prize, as a recognition for his unique commitment with our freedom.
And then, on the other hand, thousands of miles away off the coast of Venezuela, the U.S. has seized yet another tanker. This is the 6th in recent months. This one is called the Veronica. These are Special Forces or Marines or the Coast Guard fast roping down from a helicopter onto the deck. All of this while the White House confirms that they have completed the first sale of seized Venezuela oil that's valued at a whopping $500 million. And all this, again, as Maduro is in jail and his vice president is acting president. Now let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Monica, let's start with Machado's visit to D.C. So Machado, it sounds like, presented Trump with the Nobel Peace Prize. The question is, did he take it? Is it in the president's possession, or who's still holding the Peace Prize tonight?
He kept it, Gotti. The president of the United States did receive it. He accepted it, I'm told, by a White House official who confirmed that. And we did know from earlier today, Maria Corina Machado confirmed it. She said that that was kind of her plan. She did present it to him, but then it was an open question. The White House didn't immediately weigh in to let us know whether he had indeed taken possession of it, and that is the fact. And we know that for weeks, for months, the president has really talked about what he believes, which is that he thinks he should have won this Nobel Peace Prize. He has made that abundantly clear in his remarks. He has really kind of talked about that. And when he was asked if she was going to come here kind of with the purpose stated as such to give it to him, he didn't want to necessarily say that, but it now seems like he does possess it. But we should point out, Gotti, that according to the Nobel Institute, this prize cannot be shared, it cannot be transferred, it cannot be revoked. So he can have it, he can look at it, he can hold it, but Maria Corina Machado, according to the Nobel Institute, is the actual Peace Prize winner here, Gotti.
Interesting. And looking at this video, I mean, from the looks of it, if you're just stepping into all of this, you're like, oh, look, everyone's smiling. Like, it doesn't seem awkward at all. But Trump also spoke to Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, on the phone yesterday. Delcy Rodriguez is a vice president for Maduro, who was, the opposition of Machado. Where do things stand with the relationship between Delcy, the opposition to Machado, and the president right now?
Yeah, the dynamic here is absolutely fascinating because it was the United States that determined after the ouster of Nicolas Maduro that they did want to back Delcy Rodriguez, who you're seeing there on your screen, as the interim leader, as the person who right now they are dealing with, who, according to the White House and senior officials, she has been pretty cooperative so far on some of the things that they have wanted her to be in communication with the administration on. But then there is this open question about Machado, because remember that the president had been praising her and her leadership and her bravery as the opposition leader, but he had said that he didn't believe that she had the respect of the people of Venezuela. And even though he has supported the possibility of elections, unclear when, in Venezuela, he hasn't necessarily said that he believes she will be the future leader of that country. So for her to come here and sort of make her pitch potentially to him is a really interesting element to all of this. Though, again, right now, the Trump administration says they're going to continue to work with the current leader, who, as you point out, is a complete ally of Maduro. And the Maduro regime, as it is, still stands just without Nicolas Maduro right now. Gotti.
Yeah, who is sitting in a cell. Meanwhile, to Venezuela's neighbor, Colombia, their president, Gustavo Petro, is going to also be meeting with Trump. What's that meeting looking like? Because there has been quite the exchange of words, and then now it looks like maybe productive phone conversations?
Possibly. And we do know President Trump had threatened maybe some military action even in Colombia when he was threatening Venezuela in a similar way. Now, after calling him a sick man, the president did get on the phone with the president of Colombia for about an hour. And the reason we know some of that, too, is because there were New York Times reporters who were sitting down for an interview with President Trump at the time when he got the call. He hopped on the phone with the Colombian leader and he talked to him for about an hour. The contents of the call were considered off the record for the reporters who were in the Oval Office and present for it. But it did sound like it was productive because at least it concluded with the fact that the president invited President Petro to come to Washington, to come to the White House for a meeting in the coming weeks. So at least for now, those tensions seem to have cooled ever so slightly, even though the administration is still talking about the fact that it's going to continue to prioritize what it calls its war on drugs and going after so-called narco-terrorists who might be coming from certain countries in Latin America, including potentially Colombia. Gadi.
Wow. Quite the image comes to mind, too. Reporters sitting in the White House, sitting in the Oval Office, and the president saying, hey, sit there for an hour. Don't write anything down. This is all off the record as I do international diplomacy. Crazy times. NBC's Monica Alba, thank you so much. And in Iran tonight, it appears as though the killing may have stopped for now. This includes what the United States was worried about potentially being the execution of protesters. Now, according to Iran's judiciary, this 26-year-old, we're about to show you his picture right there, his image has been going viral, and he has been charged with acting against national security and spreading propaganda. But that carries a prison sentence, not the death penalty, which is very notable. What happens to him and what happens to the other 18,000 arrested protesters, that is going to be watched extremely closely by the Trump administration, which appears to be planning for maybe something in the Middle East. We already know that United States troops were evacuated from an air base in Qatar, but also tonight, more signs of some kind of preparation. The United States Navy sending in reinforcements with the USS Abraham Lincoln being ordered to the Middle East from way down here in the South China Sea. Here's what the president said about potential military action in Iran yesterday.
Does this mean military action is now off the table against Iran?
We're going to watch it and see what the process is.
And NBC's Courtney Cubie has been reporting on these new movements. Courtney, good to see you. Moving battle groups, I mean, that is a huge undertaking, right? If there was something big on the horizon, how many days out are traditional forces from being in position here?
Yeah, we should think about this as forces potentially flowing into the region for days and even weeks. And you're absolutely right about the aircraft carrier strike group being a huge undertaking. We're talking about thousands of U.S. forces, mainly sailors and Marines, on those ships, because it's not just the aircraft carrier. We're also talking about the associated destroyers and cruisers and the entire air wing that will travel alongside of it or along with it. So this is an enormous undertaking. We have to remember, you know, we've been talking about the possibility of military action in Iran for some time now, ever since President Trump first started talking about it, when the protests in Iran turned violent and deadly. But the U.S. military can act inside Iran without a carrier nearby. But the reality is, it does bring additional capability that would make any military action, not only the offensive part of the action, but the defensive part, a lot safer for those involved.
Interesting. There's been so much talk about what seems to be, I don't know, a preferred MO when it comes to this administration and the way they get kinetic, like strikes, something quick and forceful is what we've been seeing, and then a backing off without any boots on the ground or a limited forward position. What kind of options do you think President Trump is being presented with right now?
And that is absolutely correct based on what the U.S. did in Iran back in June of last year, right? They had this massive increase of U.S. air power. They went in, they conducted these strikes, and they took off. And as far as we know, they haven't been back in there since. I don't know that this would necessarily look like this. We do know that President Trump has told his most senior national security advisors that he wants any action, military action the U.S. takes there, to be decisive. And he wants it to ultimately lead to the toppling of the regime in Tehran. Gadi, it's hard to imagine at this point for the U.S. military to take strikes that would really accomplish that in a quick or easy way. And in fact, it seems as if it would take a more prolonged effort for that to happen. We're not talking about necessarily months, but definitely not one wave of strikes in and out. And that's part of the reason that some allies in the region, including the Israelis, have told the Trump administration or urged them not to take military action right now, because if they wait until potentially the Iranian regime is on their back heels, they may be able to take action that is much more decisive in bringing down that regime.
Yeah, for the layman, what does that mean? Because I think so many people have the misunderstanding that, like, well, just bomb this site and bomb that site, and that'll take such and such personnel out. And yet, when you're talking about Iran, you're talking about a regime that has been planning defensively for decades, right?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of their defenses are still crippled from the strikes the U.S. took back in June, and then even more importantly, the strikes that the Israelis took back in October of 2024. They really decimated their strategic air defenses during those strikes. But you're right. It seems like it could be simple, right? You go in, you take out some of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, maybe some of the Quds forces, the Basij, who are the sort of secret police who are there. But the reality is, Gadi, they are spread throughout the country, so that's not an easy undertaking. Now, it's not even easy for the U.S. if they were to go in and say, hey, we'll take out their ballistic missile systems or their launchers. Those are also spread out. So that's really the challenge that the U.S. has right now. If they want to do something that's going to be decisive in toppling the regime, that is not an easy undertaking. Now, President Trump has said publicly he wants to do something that would support the protesters. That doesn't have to mean militarily. There are things that they can do that would essentially be thought of as like the gray zone effort. So things that are below the level of military, but could still help the protesters with their efforts. It's not clear if maybe it might be on the table in the more immediate future, as opposed to military strikes, which don't appear immediate right now.
Yeah, and if I'm reading between the lines that you're putting out there, usually that stuff is covert, and yet we live in a day and age where we don't know what is going to be said by the administration in terms of capabilities or what's happening sometimes behind the curtain there. So, yeah, a lot to watch out for. Courtney Kuby, really appreciate your reporting. Thanks so much. And also tonight, there's another sports betting scandal involving players, and this time it's in college basketball and pro games overseas, with prosecutors saying gamblers were paying players to shave points and tilt games here in the United States and also possibly in China. Sam Brock has those details.
Up top!
Tonight, the hoops world once again shaken by bombshell accusations of gambling on games, including one from 2024 involving several players from DePaul University, one of 17 schools impacted.
It imperils the integrity of sport itself and everything that sports represent to us.
The federal government charging 20 players and 6 fixers in a point-shaving scheme that touched programs from the Big East to the Sun Belt. In all, attempts were made to fix 29 games, according to the indictment. Prosecutors say the scheme began in the Chinese Basketball Association, alleging 2 Americans placed large bets on teams expected to lose, then bribed a former NBA player to underperform so they could cash in.
One of sports' really red lines is underperforming to help someone win a bet, or not giving your best because it will give material inside information to someone who can also earn money from it.
Prosecutors say they then moved their operations stateside, recruiting D1 players who were allegedly offered $10,000 to $30,000 per game.
DePaul can take the lead on this possession.
The schools have not been accused of any wrongdoing. As DePaul tells NBC News in a statement, they are deeply disappointed and have a long-standing commitment to educating athletes about gambling. Meantime, the NCAA says they've investigated 40 student athletes from 20 schools over the past year, leading to 11 being banned from NCAA competition. This indictment coming just a few months after sweeping federal charges targeting gambling on NBA games. Tonight, prosecutors say this latest scheme involved millions of dollars of fraudulent bets and should serve as a warning.
Those who believed they could operate in the shadows, defraud the public, and escape justice were wrong.
Back now to that scheme to recruit college players. And according to prosecutors, the bettors involved here were using everything from alumni to trainers, even former players, to establish, quote, gravitas and legitimacy. And Gotti, it's worth noting that sports bribery charge carries a maximum penalty of up to 5 years. The fraud, up to 20 years. And obviously right now we're seeing sports betting just exploding everywhere, from college athletics to the pros. Earlier today, prosecutors said that the indictment that was unsealed is, quote, not the only charging document. So there could be more to come. Gotti, back to you.
Yeah. Sam Brock, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, death cap mushrooms are at the center of this deadly poisoning outbreak in California, why officials are urging people do not go foraging in the woods. All right. Here we go. We got 90 seconds, and then we're still here. Okay, let's chat. Guys, I was trying to keep up with the chat. Some really fascinating stuff. Love reading so many of your comments, except for when you guys are calling each other betas. That's not very nice. If you're going to call anybody a beta, direct it at me. Or, yourself. But don't call names at people that are just trying to express their opinions. Jesse Hogg, that's really fascinating. Lisbeth, interesting. Let's see, Trump says, read what you were saying, totally respect where you're coming from.
1 minute.
Definitely don't want those big numbers in the chat because, sometimes we get into the thousands and it is terrifying. I can't keep up with the chat like that. I like this to be small, intimate. It's really just about us seeing what people are talking about and helping people see what each other are saying. But we're hoping for like a kind of a nuanced way. I know that's asking a lot. Is a Verizon outage fixed? Well, at least Lisa's phone is fixed. I used to watch you on Channel 1. Reed, aw, you a real one. Thank you. Except for, I think it was Snapchat. What's up? The Meet the Press background, blah, blah, blah. Oh, shoot. 20 seconds. That's Big Mike. He's calling us out. Okay, on the next break, we'll have a little bit longer to chat. So cue up the actual questions. Right? Right.
On the road. 10. 5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we are watching tonight. At least one person is dead and 11 others hurt after a school bus crashed near Chicago. Police say a bus and a car hit head-on and that car's driver was pronounced dead at the scene. The bus driver and some students were taken to a nearby hospital, but so far, no one else has been seriously hurt. And if you were impacted by that massive Verizon outage yesterday, well, you might see a credit on your next bill. Verizon says it's going to give you $20, a $20 credit to cell service users who were affected. The outage ended up lasting more than 10 hours. It disrupted services for tens of thousands of customers. And Latin pop star Julio Iglesias is under fire tonight following allegations of human trafficking and sexual assault. 2 women who worked for Iglesias filed a complaint alleging, quote, sexual, psychological, physical, and economic violence in 2021. Representatives for Iglesias have not responded to NBC's request for comments. Meanwhile, there is a New Mexico district attorney laying out the next steps for actor Timothy Busfield's child abuse case. And it's a process that he says could take over a year. NBC's Dana Griffin has the details.
Hey, Gotti. So although we did hear from the Albuquerque, New Mexico district attorney, we did not get any new insight into their investigation or whether they are potentially looking at more alleged victims. He did say if anyone has information, they would like them to contact his office. Right now, Tony Busfield remains behind bars. He is in a restricted housing unit where he is kept with people with similar charges because of the nature of the charges. They're very severe. And also because of his high profile. He's given a tablet, allowed to make video visits with family, his attorney. He can also read and watch movies. But right now, this case centers around those 2 young actors who allege that from 2022 to 2024, he inappropriately touched them, including one boy who claims that Busfield touched his private parts when they were alone together on the set of The Cleaning Lady. There's also another allegation from a father about 25 years ago who says at the time his then 16-year-old went to audition for him in Sacramento and that Busfield kissed her and then put his hands down her pants, touching her private parts. We heard from the B Street Theater in Sacramento, and they say that they conducted an investigation. They have not revealed the results of that investigation, but say that Busfield really hasn't worked with them since 2001 when that incident allegedly happened. He is expected to make his next court appearance next Tuesday. I'm told he is expected to appear in person. That is when a judge will decide whether he will stay in jail or be released. As these hearings continue on, we expect this case to go on for more than a year, possibly up to 2 years. as it is litigated. BuzzFeed maintains that these allegations are not true. In that video telling TMZ that these are lies, he did not touch those boys. He says that he thinks he will be exonerated and hopes that he is released soon. Gotti?
Dana, out there in Albuquerque. Dana, thank you so much, and we'll be right back after the break. Okay, we got 2 minutes now. All right, what were you guys talking about? Let's see here. What's up with the Meet the Press background? Those people type super fast. We'll have to watch for it. It's cool having known you since 6th grade, and now you're doing great news. Proud of you.
No, I don't want to go
thanks.
now.
Yeah, graduated here. Just go to TikTok, dear. Who are you talking to, Carl?
Hey.
Oh, I see. Ellie. I literally talk to people from other countries, and they say their news is local. Ooh, that's interesting. Yo, what's up?
Hi, what's going on? Hey, chat. What's happening, chat?
The chat is fired up today.
I'm talking about poison mushrooms in California. It's hello,
Yeah,
hi.
let me put up Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Yeah, poison mushrooms in California. Bottom
scary.
line, like, why would you trust yourself to be able to identify?
Okay, a lot of people, though, are foraging experts, and this is why you come to California, because there's so much wide open nature, so people like to forage. It's a thing. My wife is going to a foraging class next month. She's going to learn about this. Hopefully not eat the raw mushroom. Don't do that, people.
1 minute.
Dude, that's a lot of trust.
It's a lot of trust.
Forager experts.
And the problem is, guys, is these death cap mushrooms look a lot like just regular plain old mushrooms that you can eat. And so like people who are even like toxicology experts have problem figuring out which mushroom is which. So yeah, to Gotti's point, just buy your mushrooms in the grocery store. It's a lot better.
Aaliyah says, did someone mention mushrooms? Death cap mushrooms.
Not those kind of mushrooms.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a fascinating story.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, wait, how much time do we have now? 20 seconds? Darn it.
Darn
time
it.
flies. Anyway.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so if you're just watching, this is Steve Patterson. He is like my top favorite people on planet Earth. We're about to do the news, but this is in between the scenes. So 10 seconds? 5 seconds? Oh, boy. Here we go.
4, 3.
And turning now to a story that you should hear if you spend a lot of time in the great outdoors. People here in California, they are going out into the woods and they are picking mushrooms, and some of them are dying. That is happening at a pretty alarming rate, too. So what in the world is going on? NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson is with us to talk a little bit more about this. Steve, first off, like, how many deaths are we talking here?
Too many. Normally, we have about 5 a year of people who are poisoned by these kind of things, mushrooms of similar styles. 35 people have now been poisoned, 3 deaths, 3 liver failures because this particular type of death cap mushroom attacks the liver if you ingest it. Really bad. These numbers are unprecedented. The California Health Department cannot stop putting out warnings about this because they are very worried about people eating these mushrooms in the wild and getting sick and possibly dying.
If there's smoke, there's fire. So
yeah.
Why 35? Why this year? Like, what's inspiring people to go out and look for mushrooms that look like death cap mushrooms?
Okay, sounds crazy, but a few things. One is the weather, because it's been so frickin' rainy and so warm. A lot of that leads to California sort of looking beautiful. Anybody that lives here knows when it rains this long, it's going to look great. There might even be a super bloom of what we call wildflowers, or not what we call wildflower, what we call a super bloom of wildflowers. Usually, so you see those shocks of pinks and purples and yellows. But it also happens to these very serious mushrooms. And so they're all over the place. And people who consider themselves foragers or go out on a hike and maybe want to pick their own lunch, which happens, and part of the reason why you want to live in a place like California, right? It's incredibly dangerous right now. It's also really hard to tell the difference. And we spoke to somebody about just how they look and how tricky it is. Here's what they said. Listen to this.
So do you want to know what a death cap looks like so you can avoid it? I'm gonna have to pick it to show you. It's got a very dull browny, greeny, yellowy cap, a skirt, a slightly snakeskin stem, and the classic egg sac. And before people get very mad about me handling a death cap, remember all mushrooms in the world are safe to handle and sniff, even the deadly toxic ones. It's only when we eat them that they can do us harm.
Okay. He's an expert, but he looks also AI. And also, dude, I am so scared. Like, this whole thing sketches me out. The world is confusing enough, right?
It's crazy, yes. One thing he didn't say, too, is, like, there's no way to eat them, right? So if you're thinking, oh, I can just boil out the poison or grill out the poison, like, it doesn't work. If you eat these, you are going to be sick and you could possibly die. And again, the thing that's so tricky is they look like mushrooms that you could eat in the wild. And in fact, people do eat and are totally fine, but these, no, you will face
I mean,
something bad.
and not to get even darker here,
Yeah.
but like, weren't these the type of mushrooms that were used in Australia for the you know, like killing of people?
Melbourne, Australia. I know this case very well because we share the same last name. Erin Patterson. She was just recently convicted and sentenced life in prison for serving beef Wellingtons to her in-laws, which apparently had the death cap mushrooms in them. You sort of make the sauce, the binding agent. I watched my wife do it, making a beef Wellington, not a death cap beef Wellington, but a beef Wellington, and apparently she used the death caps. Her defense was she didn't know, you know, like people here don't know, and the jury didn't find her side on
Let's go hiking sometime soon.
I'm down with that, but no picking mushrooms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve Patterson, thank you so very much. And still to come, are you tired of jumping through hoops to cancel subscriptions? Lawmakers are hoping to change that. We're going to explain that later this hour, so stay tuned.
Always a good chat.
Thank you so much.
Expect that expert to be.
I know, that little kid. Yeah,
little kid.
exactly.
I'll be honest, chat. I read the description of what that person was going to say, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a nature expert. And then a small child popped up.
Yeah.
But they were great.
It's so funny. Like, the life of the correspondent, so often we do stories in every single, like, all the topics, and so much of it is just research, looking at the text, looking at all this stuff, just kind of going through the scripts, and then doing the heavy research, and then boom, we get into TV land. So you're the best, man. Thank you so much. NBC News is going to be at the Student Television Network event in Tampa at the end of February. I wish I was there. I will unfortunately be in Cortina Olympics. What are your thoughts on the U.S.-Greenland conflict? Look, there are a lot of different journalists out there, and all of them are important in this ecosystem. My type of journalism is, and this is just me, but like, I don't know. I get to talk to the experts and I ask the questions for you so you guys can make up your mind. But I try as hard as I can to just, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm just trying to tell you what's happening today. Let's see. How do they fix it with Tide Pods? They said, don't eat the Tide Pods. Looks like Lisa is laughing. That kid has a future in news. Mushrooms and alcohol don't mix. Yeah, for sure. Let's see what else. We did have a lot of rain this year. Heck yes, we did.
30
We're
seconds.
appreciative of it, but not the mushrooms. 30 seconds? All right, here we go. This one's news you can use, though, right, Lise? All the subscriptions.
This is, I actually love this story.
Streamline. Will Google Lens identify the bad mushrooms? Jesse Hogg, I like your innovative thinking, but like, don't chance it.
I'm going to test it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to mute you, Lise.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. With all the subscriptions that exist nowadays, it's easy to forget what you're signed up for, which means you could be paying a lot more than you think. And now there is a bipartisan effort on Capitol Hill to try to make sure you're just paying for what you mean to. NBC's Emily Akeda has more.
Well, this Saturday Night Live clip may be a parody.
The next person that you transfer me to better have the power to cancel my cable.
It's a real grievance shared by many Americans. Canceling a subscription is often a difficult process for consumers.
Why do they make it so hard to cancel, like, memberships and subscriptions?
And those unwanted memberships can add up, costing some Americans hundreds of dollars every year. A major source of frustration shared on social media.
Just have a link or a button on your website to say cancel here.
Last year, video streaming, e-commerce, and music services were the most popular, with a CNET survey suggesting the average U.S. adult spends about $90 per month on subscriptions, including $17 for ones they don't even use.
that can add up really quickly and can be some money that you're able to save if you cancel some of those subscriptions.
The Federal Trade Commission adopted a click-to-cancel rule that would require companies to simplify canceling their services. But it was blocked by a federal appeals court last July over a procedural error. Now on Capitol Hill, there's a bipartisan effort to revive it. It's called the Unsubscribe Act, which proposes to strengthen consumer protection by requiring both a simple way to cancel subscriptions and consent before charging customers after a free or reduced cost trial.
What the marketers and the corporations do is they count on a huge number of consumers forgetting that they subscribed, and they reap the benefits in a large amount of profit.
Experts say try a subscription tracker like Rocket Money or Bobby, or simply do a self-audit of your spending, checking bank and credit card statements from the past 3 months to track any recurring charges.
It's really up to us to really take a moment, take a few minutes just to look and see what it is that we're actually paying for.
Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Interesting, Emily Ikeda. Thank you so much. And before we go, it is time for the future of everything. Airlines might have to navigate more than just weather while up in the skies, why the FAA is now advising them to be on the lookout for space debris. But first, you got to see this. You think your dog running away is a problem? Try chasing a runaway emu. That's a stubborn emu just spotted fleeing on a Florida road, of course, ignoring the officers commanding him to come right back. Thankfully, they had a lasso and some handcuffs, and they were able to bring that emu home safely. We'll be right back.
Sure.
What's this one?
I believe 3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right. 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. All right, let's see. Germaphobe, that kid gave me a little, I'm scared of mushrooms. I do not play any musical instruments. I wish, but I hum. Let's see. Hunter Burke, they need to be regulated. And what was that one that, oh yeah. Are you afraid to say what you think? That is a deep existential question, and I really appreciate it. I'm not afraid to say what I think. Look, I'm not afraid to open up the chat during news and be like, what can go wrong? I'm sure people are going to be super nice. So no, I'm not afraid. I'll tell you what I'm afraid of, though. I am afraid of what I don't know. And when you've been in the news for as long as I've been in the news, and I know I look, I'm like I'm 14 or something, but I'm not 14. I am 42, and I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, 20 years. And I just know how many stories I've seen evolve and how often what we thought was happening was actually not happening. And so this time-space continuum, like it is a long one. And so I am afraid of the things I don't know. I'm afraid of locking in on something when you don't have the full picture. And these days, more than any other day, I would argue, we don't have the full picture of everything. So that's where I stand here. And that is like what guides the spirit of our show, as much as I can help it. Space debris, Kessler syndrome. Ooh, interesting. I'm going to Google that right after this. Again, Florida news. Get dog. Good, need to be regulated. Be afraid of a mad wife. I am very afraid of my mad wife. I love you, Kimmy, if you're watching. Yo. Ooh, I love it. Okay, cool. Okay.
Four, three.
And tonight in the future of everything, when space flight goes exactly as planned, you get scenes like this. This is the return of NASA's Crew 11 streaking across the California night sky. Had so many people looking up. Watch this.
That's right over Burbank. Look at that.
Oh my God. That's so cool.
That is unreal.
That awe, I mean, you hear it everywhere. A controlled, carefully planned re-entry. Humans surrounded by a cocoon of plasma. NASA says all of that ended up in this picture-perfect splashdown in the Pacific. But it's not always that clean. 1 year ago today, we were covering this right here on our show. There are fiery streaks of Starship debris lighting up the night sky over the Caribbean, triggered chaotic moments on commercial flights. That day, we're starting to get a much more clear picture of what happened. Here's what one pilot was told in the moments after that explosion.
Due to a space vehicle mishap, Welcome launched that basically exploded in between our airspace and Miami. I'm going to give you holding instructions because there was debris in the area, so I'm going to keep you away from it.
All right, so how does a pilot see all this? Well, here's how the pilot responded. According to ProPublica, he turned south to get out of that debris zone. That pilot was not the only one. Look at how big this debris zone is here. ProPublica identified 20 other planes that appeared to make sudden turns to exit or avoid that danger zone in the minutes after that Starship blow-up last January. And NBC News has not independently verified that reporting, but take a listen to apparently what happened next.
The only information I got is that the rocket exploded, so we need to protect the airspace, and Miami and Domingo stopped taking aircraft. If you're going to pass through the DRA, you guys going to need to declare an emergency. That's what my supervisor, if you're going to land at San Juan, you need to declare an emergency for fuel reasons. That's what my supervisor just told me.
All right, so there's some confusion.
Emergency, mayday, mayday, mayday.
In that case, we declare an emergency, mayday, mayday, mayday. Like, it is uncharted territory. That confusion you're hearing is exactly why the FAA is now treating space debris, space launch debris, as well as an ongoing operational hazard for airlines, something that pilots and dispatchers have to actively plan around now, just, I guess, like the weather. So, in other words, the sky is getting busier. The rules around safety are being rewritten in real time. Let's go straight out to NBC News aviation analyst Jeff Guzzetti. Jeff, thank you so much for being with us. So, what does this mean, given that we are about to see like a pretty incredible cadence when it comes to Starship, when it comes to NASA? Are we going to all have to get used to diversions because of space debris?
Good to be with you, Gotti. Well, I think in the short term, no, because there aren't that many large spaceship launches. But you're right, they're going to be maybe one a day in the next few years. So, yes, in the future, some passengers, not all, but some airline passengers will be inconvenienced. They'll have to go into holding patterns. They'll be delayed in getting into their final destinations. I just don't think it's going to be something that we're going to be looking forward to in the near future.
And you know, it's so interesting because here in LA, I mean, last night, this flew above all of our heads, or it was over the ocean, but it definitely looked like it was over our heads. Now SpaceX is proposing new Starship flight maps. Obviously, a Starship, a much larger craft than the one that splashed down yesterday. But that's launch, re-entry paths over Florida, parts of Mexico. These are new flight paths, right? How big of a shift is this going to be for airlines?
They are new flight paths, Gotti, and especially that re-entry one. It's going to go over several medium-sized cities in Mexico. And on the left screen there, that launch takes you over Florida. So the FAA works closely with these commercial space launch people, and they say, where do you want to launch to? And they have a say in exactly where the potential trajectory of space debris could go. But, you know, the FAA wants to keep commercial space going. So it's going to be a trade-off between the commercial space operators as well as the major airlines, because you don't want major airlines operating in the flight path of a potential debris area, because it takes less than a pound of space junk that could take down an airplane if it happens to be flying in that area. So the FAA will be communicating daily with the airlines. They just put out this SAFO, this safety alert for operators, to warn airlines, to get them sensitized to the fact that these commercial space operations are going to be happening, you know, several times a month perhaps. And they're going to have their dispatchers, they're going to have their flight planners, make sure that they'll be ready for a potential contingency of space debris happening after a failed launch or re-entry.
Yeah, I mean, and this is just space debris. We don't even have time to get into like the drones that are going up. Maybe we're going to have flying taxis. I don't know, but it does seem to be summed up by that poster right behind you. I think that's risk in big words with a shark in a glass, fish tank. that sums up exactly where we are right now. Jeff Guzzetti, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so very much. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. All right. That's it. That's the show, guys. Okay. Let's see. Take advantage of. How to get to journalism, Gotti. Very curious. The press is the press, and I explain the issues. Interesting. It's not nice to assume or call people ignorant. Yeah, Golden Architect. Who's calling people ignorant? But I'm not going to ban anybody yet because we're trying to make good conversations happen. How do I get into journalism? Curiosity. Are those bubbles showing up for anybody else? I think they are. Anytime I do that, I don't know why. Shout out to Lisa. Yes, guy's not afraid. He's afraid to lose his job. Yeah, obviously I'm afraid to lose my job, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Everybody does, so that's why I'm nice to people. You can get high without spaceships. Reed, that's a good one. Okay, guys, let's talk tomorrow. I got to get home, but love you. Thank you so much for joining us, and hasta.